The man across the table has no rank insignia. No name tag. No unit patch. He is wearing a gray fleece and drinking a cup of tea, and he is looking at you like he already knows every answer you are about to give. You are 22 years old. You are a corporal in 1st Battalion the Rifles. You have done a tour of Helmand and a tour of Cyprus, and you have spent the last 6 months doing nothing in a barracks in Cheshire that smells like wet concrete and yesterday's fried food. And now you are here in a room with no windows, somewhere in Hereford you were not told the address of, and this man is asking you why you want to join the Special Reconnaissance Regiment. You give him the answer you rehearsed. He nods. He writes nothing down. He says, "What's the real reason?" You pause for 4 seconds. Then you tell him something you have never said out loud. Something about watching a man die in a ditch outside Sanjin and not being able to explain afterwards why the intelligence was wrong. About wanting to be the person who goes earlier, who sees more, who never lets that happen again. He writes that down. You don't know it yet, but you just passed the first test. Level 1. Trooper. You arrive at RAF Credenhill on a Tuesday in November. It is 5:40. The sky is the color of old pewter. Your breath makes small clouds in front of your face. You are wearing civilian clothes because you were told to, and you are carrying a Bergen that weighs 31 kilograms because you weighed it yourself the night before 3 times just to be certain. There are 11 other people in the car park. Nobody introduces themselves. Nobody shakes hands. You stand in a loose cluster, breathing the same cold air, and you look at each other the way men look at each other when they are all thinking the same thing. Which of us is going to make it? The answer, in the end, will be 2. Selection for the SRR is not like UKSF selection at Hereford. It does not advertise itself in the same way. There are no famous hills with famous names. But what it asks of you is different and in some ways harder because physical endurance is only half of it. The other half is something that cannot be trained in a gym. They call it the surveillance phase. On day 3, you are given a folder. Inside the folder is a photograph of a man, a partial address in a provincial English city, and a brief. Find out where he goes on Thursdays between 1400 hours and 1800 hours. Do not be seen. Do not approach. Do not use your phone except to photograph. You are given 48 hours. You have no support team, no vehicle, no cover legend, just a baseball cap, a waterproof jacket that doesn't look military, and the instruction to blend in. The city is Gloucester. The man is, you will eventually learn, a staff sergeant from the training wing who has been doing this exercise for 4 years and knows every tell, every mistake, every amateur error that a nervous soldier makes when they think they are being covert. On Thursday at 14:12, he goes to a bakery on Westgate Street. At 14:47, he sits in a pub called The Fountain and reads a newspaper for 38 minutes. At 16:20, he walks to a car park on King's Square and sits in a beige Vauxhall Astra for 11 minutes before driving north. You see all of this. You record all of this. And you do not think, for even one moment, that you have done anything wrong. You hand in your report. The DS reads it for 40 seconds. He looks up. He says, "You stood outside the bakery for 4 minutes. He clocked you the moment you crossed his eye line the second time. You drove 300 miles for this feedback. You take it. You go back to your bunk. You do not sleep. You rerun every footfall, every pause, every time you let your eyes settle somewhere they should not have settled. You find the mistake at 2 a.m. It is a small thing. A fraction of a second where your gaze followed him through a window instead of moving past. A fraction of a second. That is the difference between operational and compromised. Between the asset living and the asset dying. You do not make that mistake again. The weeks that follow are a controlled form of psychological dismantlement. You are run through surveillance detection routes in 6 different cities. You are put on foot follow packages in London where the crowds are thick enough to hide in but thin enough to matter. You are given a legend, a name, a backstory, a cover occupation, and you are told to inhabit it. Not perform it. Inhabit it. Your name is Daniel Marsh. You are a site safety inspector from Sheffield. You have a daughter named Isla. You support Sheffield Wednesday. You drive a Peugeot 308. You learn to be Daniel Marsh so completely that when a woman at a bus stop asks you about your work, you answer for 7 minutes without a single hesitation. Afterward, alone, you try to remember your actual name. Takes a moment. That is when you understand what the SRR is selecting for. Not bravery, not fitness, not even intelligence. It is selecting for the capacity to dissolve yourself. At week 8, 2 men leave voluntarily. One cries, "You do not judge him. You understand that what he is feeling is not failure. It is the recognition that this particular trade requires you to become something that does not entirely come back. He is wiser than most for knowing that before it's too late." You pass selection on a gray afternoon in February. The DS shakes your hand. He says, "Welcome to the regiment." He says nothing else. You are now a trooper in the Special Reconnaissance Regiment. The name will appear on no public document. Your family will be told you are in a signals unit. The work you will do does not exist in any official record until long after you stop doing it. Your first operational task comes 14 days later. You are posted to a troop that operates under the umbrella of what is officially called the Intelligence Corps but is not, in practice, the Intelligence Corps in any recognizable sense. The address you report to is a nondescript office building in a business park outside Guildford. There are estate agents on the ground floor, a gym on the second. You take the stairs to the third. Your target is a man in his mid-40s who is believed to be facilitating the movement of materials for a dissident Republican group. He lives in South Armagh. He has a wife. He has 3 children. The youngest is 4 years old. Your job is to photograph him at a location in Dundalk across the border, where he meets a contact every second week. You will do this from a vehicle. You will be in the vehicle for 9 hours. The vehicle smells of stale coffee and a pine air freshener that has stopped working. It is February and the heater produces warmth at inconsistent intervals. At 11:14 he arrives. He is wearing a green wax jacket. He shakes hands with a man you don't recognize and they go into a hardware store for 22 minutes. You photograph 47 images through a camera concealed in a modified newspaper on the dash. Nobody speaks in your vehicle. You breathe quietly. You do not check your phone. You do not shift in your seat unless absolutely necessary. When he leaves, you do not follow. That is not your task. Your task ended the moment he walked out of frame. On the drive back, your commander asks what you thought. You say, "Nothing." He nods. He says, "Good." And it is true. You have learned already in only 14 days how to watch a man carefully enough to ruin his life and feel nothing in the moment of watching. The feeling, if it comes at all, comes later. 3 in the morning. In fragments. In the shape of his youngest child's face, which you saw in a photograph on the back seat of his car. 4 years old. You close your eyes and file that away. You get very good at filing things away. Level 2. Lance Corporal. The stripe comes after 18 months. It is not a ceremony. It is an email and then a brief conversation, and then you are running a 2-person foot surveillance package in Manchester on a Tuesday afternoon and the other person is asking you for direction and you give it. That is what command looks like at this level. Small, quiet, entirely invisible from the outside. You are 24 years old. You have been in 4 countries in the last year. One of them you are not allowed to specify even in classified reports. It appears only as a 3-letter designator that means nothing to anyone who has not been read into the program. In that country, you spent 11 days in a single room above a market, watching a building across a street through a scope the width of a rolled magazine. The room was 12 feet by 9. There was a mattress, a camping stove, a chemical toilet, and a window you could not open because the gap in the shutter needed to remain at exactly 17 centimeters. You memorized the building's face within the first 4 hours. By day 3 you knew every person who used the side entrance by their gate alone. On day 9, someone you had not seen before arrived. He was there for 40 minutes. He left in a different vehicle than he arrived in. That was the data point. That was why you had been in that room for 11 days. You report it. You go home. 2 weeks later you are told obliquely without detail that the data point was useful. You do not know what useful means. You do not ask. But you notice one morning while making coffee that you looked for 20 seconds at the building across the street from your flat before you realized you were doing it. You were logging the windows, counting the entry points, noting the sight lines. You stop making coffee and stand in your kitchen for a moment. You make a decision. This is fine. This is just professionalism extended into daily life. This is a good habit. This is what makes you good at the job. You believe this completely. You are also, in small and undetectable ways, becoming someone who cannot walk into a room without immediately assessing who is dangerous and how far away the exit is. Someone who chooses seats with walls behind them. Someone who does not fully sleep. This is the trade. This is what was being selected for that first day in the car park at Credenhill. The question was never, can you do this job? The question was, can you do this job and remain the person you were? The answer, it turns out, was a question with a one-way gate. At 24, you are still close enough to who you were that you can feel the distance. You still call your mother on Sundays. You still go to a friend's wedding in October and drink too much and dance badly and mean it. You still laugh at something stupid on a Tuesday night and not feel the laugh as a performance. But there is a shift. It is the shift that happens to everyone who does this work long enough. It is not dramatic. It is the slow, geological kind. You are running a task in Liverpool. The target is a man connected to serious organized crime, a facilitator for a county lines network that has been putting heroin into schools. Your role is technical surveillance support. You are attached to a national crime agency operation, embedded as an enhancement, invisible even to most of the NCA team on the ground. The task runs for 6 weeks. On week 4, you watch a 17-year-old boy make a delivery to a flat in Toxteth. He is thin. He is scared. He is wearing trainers with no laces and a jacket too thin for October. You photograph him 22 times. He is part of the chain. He is evidence. He will, when the operation concludes, be arrested along with the target. You photograph him. You say nothing. You file the images. You are 24 years old and you are very good at what you do, and you drive home that night and sit in your car outside your flat for 11 minutes and think about a 17-year-old boy with no laces in his trainers, and then you go inside and you make dinner and you watch television and you do not call anyone and you do not say anything to anyone about it because there is no language in your life for what you are feeling. There is a term for it. You will learn it much later. It is called moral injury. But right now you just call it Tuesday. Level 3. Corporal. You are 27. You are running packages. In the SRR, running a package means you are the team leader for an operational surveillance task. You have, at any given time, between 2 and 6 people reporting to you. You are responsible for the task, for their safety, for the quality of the intelligence product, and for the decisions that happen when things go wrong. Things go wrong in ways that the training never fully prepared you for, because training assumes a world of controlled variables. The real world does not do controlled variables. It is a Thursday in late spring. You are running a technical task in Belfast. The target is a man with links to a real IRA splinter cell that your intelligence suggests is planning something, though the something is not yet specific enough to be actionable. The whole point of what you do is to make the something specific. At 14:08, your operator reports that the technical device you placed in the target's vehicle 3 days ago has gone silent. Either the battery has failed, possible, or it has been discovered. You have 12 seconds to decide. If it has been discovered, the vehicle is now a signal. If they know the device is there, driving it around a city is a way of leading your operators into a position. That position is known as a come-on. A come-on ends with people in ambulances or worse. If the battery has simply failed, and you pull your team off the street, you lose days of work and possibly the window on an attack that is still being planned. You pull the team off. You do it in 9 seconds. They are unhappy, not out loud. In the SRR, unhappy is a different caliber, a quieter thing. They say nothing. They move. 2 hours later, the device is confirmed failed, battery. Not a come-on. Not a discovery. You lost 2 days and an operational window. Your superior says nothing about the decision. He lets it sit there for 12 hours and then, at the morning brief, he says, "You made the right call for the wrong assessment. Recalibrate." That sentence takes you a month to fully unpack. It means your instinct to protect your team was correct. Your intelligence assessment was wrong. You must learn to tell the difference between caution and error. One keeps people alive. The other makes you less useful. Both matter. Neither excuses the other. You recalibrate. By 28, you have run 46 packages. You have been operational in 7 countries. You are running a junior operator named Whitmore who is 22 and very good and reminds you, uncomfortably, of yourself at that age. The same focus. The same slightly excessive stillness that people who don't know the job mistake for calm and people who do know it recognize as the early signs of someone learning to perform themselves. You tell him one evening over a coffee in a safe house kitchen in East Sussex that the most dangerous moment in this job is when you stop noticing the cost. He asks what you mean. You don't answer immediately. You look at the coffee. You think about the 17-year-old in Liverpool. About the man in Dundalk with the 4-year-old. About the 11 days in the room with the 17-centimeter gap in the shutter. You say, when it stops feeling like anything, that's when it starts eating you. You want it to feel like something. Even just a little. Whitmore nods. He looks like he understands. He doesn't yet, but he will. Level 4. Sergeant. You are 31. You run a troop. A troop in the SRR is not large. At any given time it is 7 to 12 people, depending on operational tempo and the secondments that pull operators out to other tasks, other theaters, other corners of the classified architecture that governs what you do. You know your people the way you know the layout of rooms in the dark, completely by feel without needing to look. Your name, at this level, is on documents that will be sealed for 30 years. You attend briefings where the chairs are not labeled and the projectors display no classification markings because classification markings would themselves be a marking. You have been on operational rotation to the Middle East 3 times in 2 years. Not fighting. Not what most people mean when they picture a soldier. What you do there is older than fighting. Older than armies. You watch. You listen. You build, slowly and at enormous personal cost, a picture. There is a task in the first year of your troop command that you think about for the rest of your career. The target is a network. Not a person, a network. A web of financial relationships and personal loyalties and movement patterns spread across 3 countries. Your job, and the job of 2 adjacent teams from partner organizations you will never name, is to map it. To find the load-bearing strands. To identify the 2 or 3 individuals whose removal would cause the structure to collapse. Takes 14 months. You are operational for 9 of those 14 months. The remaining 5 are analysis, reporting, liaison. You become, without quite meaning to, a skilled analyst. You learn to read a pattern of mobile phone cell data the way a pathologist reads an X-ray. You learn to spot the ghost signature of a man who does not want to be found in the tiny thermal residue of his absence. The things that don't move, the places that don't change, the gaps in a life that are too clean to be accidental. The network is mapped. The report goes up the chain. You never know with certainty what happens next. That is the nature of the job. You give someone else the picture. They decide what to do with it. What you do know, 6 months after the report is filed, 2 of the 3 individuals you identified are no longer operational. The method of their non-operationality is not specified in any document you are given access to. You do not ask for access. You told yourself once that you were a watcher, that the watching was the moral line, that you observed, reported, enabled, but that the decisions and the actions were downstream of you, belonging to someone else's hands. At 31, you are old enough to know that this is not entirely true, that the map you drew was a targeting document in everything but name, that the line between intelligence and lethal action, at the highest classification levels, is thinner than the paper the orders are printed on. You do not share this with your troop. You put it in the same place you put everything else. The place is getting full. There are other costs. Your marriage ends in March of your 32nd year. Not with anger. With a sadness that is almost worse than anger. Because it is honest. Your wife, her name is Rachel. She is a physiotherapist. She has brown eyes and she made the best chili you have ever eaten. Tells you that she is lonely in a way that she does not know how to explain. That she is married to a person who is present physically but elsewhere in all the ways that matter. That she loves you but she has, over 6 years, slowly lost the ability to find you. You do not argue. You know she is right. You do not know how to be found. You sign the papers in June. You run a package in Karachi in July. The package takes 11 days. You do not think about Rachel in Karachi. This is not a conscious choice. It is just the way the work works. The work fills space. Whitmore is promoted to corporal the same month. You shake his hand. He looks exactly as you did when you got your 3rd stripe, and you feel something that you will not name because naming it would make it real. Level 5. Staff Sergeant. You are 35. The work has changed shape. Not the work itself, the work is the same work it has always been. What has changed is your position relative to it. You are no longer routinely operational. You are what they call a Troop Sergeant Major, though that title does not appear on any document that circulates outside the building. What you are, in practice, is the person who makes things work, who sources the vehicles and the legends and the technical equipment, who manages the relationship between your troops' tasking requirements and the 3-letter agencies who generate the taskings, who sits in rooms with people from MI5 and GCHQ and the NCA and speaks a language that is neither military nor civilian but some third thing that exists only in the seam between them. You are good at this. Uncomfortably good. There is a version of the job at this level that requires a different kind of dissolution than the one you underwent as a trooper. As a trooper, you dissolved your identity into a cover. As a staff sergeant, you dissolve your judgment into process. You become the person who makes sure the machinery runs, not the person who questions whether the machinery should. You question it anyway. This is not a virtue. It is a liability. There is a tasking that comes down in your 2nd year at this level. The target is a British citizen. The justification is counterterrorism. The intelligence basis is, in your professional assessment, thin. Not absent, thin. Pattern of associations. A travel history. 3 conversations recorded in ambient collection that read, under most interpretations, as nothing more than anger. You flag this, not loudly, through the proper channel in the proper language. You write, assessed probability of operational value insufficient to justify current resource allocation. This is the polite version. What you mean is, we are watching this man because someone powerful wants to be seen to be doing something. Your flag is noted. The task continues. The man is a pharmacist in Coventry. He is 38 years old. He has a mother in Lahore. He goes to mosque on Fridays. He coaches under-13s football on Sunday mornings. You watch him for 4 months. He is guilty of nothing. At the end of 4 months, the task is quietly wound down. No arrest. No further action. No acknowledgement that 4 months of a man's life were spent under the attention of the state without cause. You write the closure report. It is 3 paragraphs. It says, in institutional language, that the task generated no intelligence product of value. It does not say what it cost. It never does. The pharmacist still coaches football on Sunday mornings. He does not know you exist. He will never know you exist. The work you did, from his perspective, happened in a universe entirely separate from his own. You think about him more than you expected to. Level 6. Warrant Officer Class 2. You are 39. Your knees hurt in cold weather. You drink 2 coffees a day now where you used to drink 4, because the 4th was starting to make your hands shake at moments that you could not predict. You are a Troop Sergeant Major in the formal sense now. You sit in the regiment's internal command structure at a level where the operational and the institutional begin to blur. You are responsible for the professional development of every rank below you in the troop. You sign off on selection assessments. You write the reports that determine whether young operators continue or do not continue. You are, in effect, the person who decides who becomes what you are. This is the weight that nobody told you about, not the operational weight that you learned to carry. This weight is different. It is the weight of looking at a 23-year-old who is technically qualified and personally excellent and knowing in the specific way you know things now, with the accumulated evidence of 17 years, that this particular person does not understand yet what the job will cost them, that they are consenting to something they cannot fully imagine. You pass them anyway, because they met the standard, because the regiment needs people, because there is no mechanism in the assessment framework for, this person is good enough but the price is too high, because you passed too and someone made the same decision about you, and you have not, in the end, fallen apart. Have you? You eat alone most nights. You have a flat in Hereford that is clean and quiet and contains very little of what most people would call personal effects. There is a good coffee maker. There is a bookshelf with 140 books, mostly history and military theory, with a thin line of fiction you bought but have not read. There are no photographs on the walls. Rachel remarried 3 years ago. You know this not because she told you but because you noticed, through habit you cannot turn off, that her social media presence changed in small ways that indicated a new domestic arrangement. You did not surveil her. You just noticed. That distinction matters to you more than it probably should. Whitmore is now a sergeant. He is good. He is exactly what you hoped. He also, you can see in the careful way he operates, in the thin line of performance behind his eyes when he briefs, is already 3/4 of the way through the same dissolution you went through. He is losing himself in the excellent way, the professionally useful way, and you want to tell him something that would help. You cannot find the words. Because the truth is there are no words for this that are not also a description of the job itself. The job requires the dissolution. The dissolution makes you good at the job. The dissolution is the job. There is no way to do one without the other. You sign his performance report. You rate him outstanding. Level 7. Warrant Officer Class 1. Regimental Sergeant Major. You are 44. You are the RSM. In the British Army, the RSM is the highest non-commissioned rank. In the SRR, the RSM is something that cannot be entirely described by that definition. You are the institutional memory of the regiment's human element. You are the keeper of the culture. The person who has been here long enough to know what the place was before the reorganization of 2005 and the expansion of 2009 and the digitization program of 2014 and every successive wave of institutional change that threatened to make it something different. You have been doing this job in various forms for 22 years. You have been operational in 14 countries. You have run operations that do not exist. You have watched people whose names you will take to your grave. You have filed reports that sealed into archives you will never access again, on events that changed outcomes in the world in ways no newspaper will ever name. There is a briefing you give twice a year to new selection intakes. It is not an official briefing. It is not in any training document. It is something you began in your 3rd year as RSM because you noticed that the attrition from the job was not happening at selection but 6 or 7 years in, and that the pattern of that attrition, the divorces, the drink, the quiet resignations, the handful of much worse things you do not name aloud, suggested that people were failing not because they were not good enough but because they had not been told the full price. The briefing is 11 minutes long. You give it in a small room. You do not take questions. You tell them, this job will make you excellent at one thing. That thing is watching without being seen, understanding without being known, and caring about outcomes without attaching to process. That excellence will come at the cost of some capacity to be ordinary, to be fully present in a room that does not require full presence, to be loved without calculating the cover implications of being loved. You tell them, most of you will not notice this is happening until it has already happened. You will be halfway through your career before you realize that the version of you that started no longer exists in a recoverable form. You tell them, this is not a reason not to do the job. It is a reason to do the job with clear eyes, to know what you are spending and to spend it deliberately and to make it worth spending. You do not tell them that you are not entirely sure it was worth it, not because it wasn't, but because you are no longer certain you are the right person to make that assessment. After the briefing, a young woman, a Lance Corporal 23, came from the Intelligence Corps, top of her intake, stays behind. She asks you, how do you know when it's been worth it? You look at her for a moment. You say, you don't. Not at the time. Maybe not ever. She nods. She looks like she knew the answer before she asked. That is, you think exactly why she will be exceptional. You leave the room. You walk down a corridor you have walked down 3,000 times. You pass the door to the operations room. You pass the training wing. You pass the small kitchen where, 22 years ago, you made your first cup of tea in this building and thought, I made it. You stop at the window at the end of the corridor. It looks out onto the car park. It is February. The sky is the color of old pewter. You think about the man in the gray fleece 22 years ago. The way he looked at you across the table like he already knew every answer you were about to give. You understand now that he did. He knew you would be here at 44, looking out a window at a gray sky, carrying everything you have carried, and that you would not be able to name with any precision the last time you felt entirely, ordinarily, unremarkably yourself. You had wanted to be the person who goes earlier, who sees more, who never lets the wrong thing happen again. You became that person. Entirely, completely, irreversibly. The car park is empty. A light rain has begun. You made it,